And Brother Fahim, Assalamu alaikum. And Brother Fahim is our Scrum Master, and he is going to take over for the Scrum updates. Go ahead, Brother Fahim.
Walaikum assalam. Sure. So let's start with membership registration. And who do we have on membership registration? I'm sorry, the names, I haven't really gotten to know everybody here yet. So, okay, sorry, membership registration is, I know Hasham is not in today. Hamzat, can we talk about where you are with the UI part?
Yeah, so Assalamu alaikum. I am right now, I can't actually share anything since I'm on a cell phone and not my actual laptop. But currently, we've just managed to take the table that Afif had for the filtering and all that, and I managed to put our data, our membership data onto the table, but the UI part is now, now I need to fix the UI part of the table so that it matches ours, so.
Okay. Can you actually, and this is something I'd probably ask everybody here, in the comments to the ticket that is assigned to you, if you can actually break them up into the steps, or are they already covered in the stories here? I believe, okay, they're already covered in the stories. So if you're working on a ticket, if you can break it up into what you think are the tasks that you need to work on, we can, that gives everybody a picture of how we are moving along.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I'll do that once I get back to my computer.
Sure. Thank you. Let's move on to nobody else on the membership self-service. So let's move on to payment processing. Hamza, do you have any update on this?
I'm not on payment processing.
Payment processing is a little bit down, brother.
Okay. Sorry, I had both of them selected.
Yeah, assalamualaikum. Payment processing is me, Wahaj, and Subhan. So I can go first. I didn't really make too much of visual progress, but I can. So basically, I was still kind of going over PayPal. I looked into Stripe a little, but I realized it was pretty easy, but I couldn't really do too much. I think Stripe requires like a business account, and I didn't go all the way through with making an account. But for PayPal, I kind of looked into it, and I didn't really see a straightforward way to pre-populate the credit card fields. I think there's not really a very easy way to get that done. So I kind of just didn't really pursue that much further. I also like kind of just looked into styling the buttons and what other things I can do with the API. Everything is like its own component at the moment. So inshallah, once we didn't get a chance to meet between me and Wahaj and Subhan, but once we kind of finish styling and the formatting the form, then I can just add the component in pretty easily.
Okay. The part about pre-populating the form, I think let's keep that as a very low priority. I'll add that as a separate item here. And we can get around to that once we complete the high priority items.
Okay, all right.
I'll just make my note on that. Okay. Do we have anybody else? Any updates on on the REST API or anything else?
Yeah. Can I share my screen? That's fine.
Go for it.
It says you have to stop sharing screen.
Oh, sorry.
All right. Okay, do you see it?
Yeah,
yeah. So I created a Confluence page right here to talk about my part of the payment processing page, which is just to work on the REST API, which is the backend part. So I kind of researched more on the 4 methods, which are get, post, put, and delete. And in here, I just talk about how each method works and how we implement each method into our code and into our API, which is in payments.js right here. And yeah, so for example, like I talk about how in the post method, we create a new payment. The user creates a new payment, which is then checked by the API, whether if the full name, description, type, amount, and status and payment method are correct. And if it works, then that payment will be updated into the database. And if it isn't, then an error message will occur. And yeah, so we just talk about the 4 methods here. And then here I'm still working on the Postman part, which is just testing the API. So currently, I've been trying to use Postman to check since Wahaj isn't really finished with we're not at the point where we can test the API using the UI page. So right now I'm just using Postman to do that. So here we create here if we do a get and if we send the request, then it will send like, so these are some that are already created, but if you use post right here, which is from the post method and from this method right here, then we can if I just put all this description, all these like data fields, and I just do post, then it will should post a new field. I'm still working on, there's a bit of error on that, but yeah, right now I'm just working on the Postman part and just testing the APIs.
Yeah, that's good work, Subhan. We have to cover the Postman today. So yeah, so we need to, yeah, I worked with Subhan also on getting his Postman working. So we need to get the whole team on this as well. So yeah, we'll cover it today.
All right. One question about the API documentation that you showed. Is that the actual documentation? Are we documenting all the endpoints there?
What do you mean? Like,
yes, that's the plan. I think so Subhan, endpoint, the REST API is also the other name which is used as endpoint. So yeah, that's the goal of that. Are you alluding to use some other documentation like Apiary or something like that? Is that what you are alluding to?
So normally I use OpenAPI or Swagger, which allows me to basically document and then generate the boilerplate for.
I think that's a good idea. That's a good idea. Do you? So Swagger is there any Swagger option free available?
Yeah, Swagger is free. Swagger has a pro version, but that's if you want to generate test cases and all of that. But you can, with the free version, you can generate. I don't know if you can generate for Node.js, but you can generate it for Python. But it should be also for Node.js. I can take a look.
So can you take a look at it and maybe show us sometime next week, maybe? That would be good. I think that's a good learning experience for these guys.
Just to bring everybody to on the same page with what me and my brother Naeem are talking about, is that there is a tool set. APIs have to follow a certain standard. There is a standard set around how API should talk, because API is exactly what is how your software is going to talk to very likely another software, right? So the interfaces need to be something that are very crisply defined. And to do that, there are tools that allow you to document it and at the same time generate the boilerplate code for your REST API. So yeah, hopefully I think next week I can do a little demo on, if at least not on Node, I can at least do it on Python Flask.
That's fine. I think we just want to see how it works, and then I think we should be able to adopt as well. Okay, perfect.
Let's go back to, I think that's pretty much on the payment processing.
I have the UI.
Wahaj, you want to give your update, Wahaj?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead, share your screen. Can you stop share? Yeah. Go ahead.
Right. So I also created a Confluence page on the UI. I looked at some examples of other websites on how they do the payment processing, the UI. And I just took ideas from there. So I have it, instead of having it all in columns, I have it in rows as well. So I use cards, the cards from the Bootstrap library. So I implemented that. And I tried to keep all the payment stuff on the left side, the payment history and the contact information on the right side, just to.
Okay. Can you resize your browser? I just want to see.
That's what I need to work on. These work, but this doesn't resize. See, when I go like this,
yes,
this isn't resized, but these go below.
Yeah, no, the going below is fine. but the one which is hiding, that's not right.
Yeah.
So going below is perfect. That's how it's supposed to work on the smaller form factor. So yeah, take a look at how you can fix the type of payment and payment method also.
Yeah, that's what you
Normally in these scenarios, you basically, when it's open a page, it's supposed to show just the first one, the first table. And then once you click, it opens up the second table. That's generally the way to do. But yeah, I'll let you work on that. But that's good that you're thinking about it.
All right.
And your conference page is complete, or you still work in progress?
It's a work in progress, but I've got the main stuff. So
okay,
I got what it needs. It needs the payment form first, and then it needs the payment history for the user.
yeah, I know you guys are working fine individually, fine, but I think we need a little bit more collaboration between you three, Subhan and Rafi. You guys probably need to meet once or twice. I know we're already meeting in enough times, so but find a time to meet with each other so that you can collaborate, learn how to work as a team.
All right.
Yeah, I think it was just this week. A couple weeks before we were able to meet a couple times, but I think just this last week we weren't able to communicate.
Okay, perfect.
Right.
Okay, so we want to go over the reporting stuff, which is covered by Afif.
Yeah,
and
the reporting is by Afif and Olga. So Afif, take it away.
All right, so Hamza and I were working together on the table. Oh, I can't share while you're screen sharing, but I can give a little update on it. So we were able to get the data. Hamza was able to bring it in. And so I was actually able to make the buttons work. So you can see this is the page right now. There's a little bit of a little UI additions. So there's the buttons up here. They're able to show now, and the columns are adjustable. You can choose different filters, make them disappear, make them show. You can toggle all, toggle off. I've already showed these before. They're basically the same thing. And then there's the buttons, which I think I showed last time, but I'm not sure. But there's a little bit of a UI upgrade. They're all in the current Masjid membership rather than their own file. Like for example, if I were to toggle all, I only want the ID first name. Let's do it as a PDF. The ID will generate later on, but then you can generate a PDF report from that.
Nice. We need a UX person. I think we need to find on our MHMA group that we need someone who can help us make our UI more crisp. This is great work. Technically, we are there. I think we are doing such a great job. It's just that our UX wise, it is not as pretty as the other websites are. But again, yeah, that's again we want to learn about it. There is some color combinations and all those stuff which the UX people are very good at. So we need to get those expertise also. I know we have Mudassar, we can get his help, but if there is anyone else you guys know, I think that would be good as well.
Right, and this is the CSV file. You can extend the columns right now. So then you can extend those, put those, and then you can save the data. I think, yeah, so we can work on the UI and.
No, this is great.
Okay.
Don't take me as a negative comment, but what I'm saying is we need to have, because these are specialized jobs. So it's good to have those people also get their input, how the flow and everything. And like I said, we all are working fine in our individual capacity, but as a team, we need to get a little bit better. So can you also resize your browser, how your table begins?
Yeah, so the buttons, they do resize, but after a little, like they get too small, then you can see that some of the buttons start to cut. But then the table, of course, it doesn't fit generally, but you can scroll it the entire way.
Oh, I see. Okay.
There's a little bit of
a this needs some work to do. I mean, one thing is that whenever you have a 2-column page, like this is a 2-column, right? There's a left column and right column. And if the form factor becomes smaller, this only the left column should show. and then on either a scroll or something, either it should go under it or it should. It's like a flex box thing. I think some UX person will help a little bit more on that. So that's why I was commenting on that. So, but this
Yeah,
is
and I put this on my GitHub as well. So in my fork, I have the push commits.
so this is your own fork.
Yes, this is my own fork. I haven't sent a pull request yet.
Yeah, so you need to, but you need to integrate with the Hamza also, right? Or you
Right.
guys are? You guys are, or you guys need to?
Yeah, we have met, but we'll work together furthermore. We're basically just sharing our code via Google Drive, but we can also share the fork repositories.
Okay, okay, sounds good. It's good, good.
One question: are you guys familiar with resolving conflicts in Git? Because if Brother Hamza has a if you guys have conflict with each other, do you know how to resolve that, or should we actually have a demo session on Git also?
I think it would be useful to have a demo session on
Yeah,
Git.
we had a brief session from Brother Athar before,
Okay.
but we haven't gotten to the resolution of conflicts yet. So normally, yeah. So one way is that we use some command line ways. Some commands are great. I think we should all learn those. But there are some tools also which do a pretty good job as well. Even the VS Code does a pretty good job in case of resolution. But I use at work, I use what is it called? Source tree. Have you guys, are you guys familiar with that? Source tree?
No.
Oh, okay. No, this question was for Fahim. Fahim, have you used source
No,
tree?
I haven't. I directly use just GitHub.
Yeah, it's also free tool. So maybe we can either, yeah, but again, learning or using the commands is always better because it gives you much better control over it. Okay, is there anyone left?
Urwa on parts of the payment history. So I don't think she's here today.
Oh, she's not here?
So she's waiting on me to create the fake data set.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay. Oh, good. Thanks, Brother Ahmed, for joining. Yeah, we wanted to ask you some questions also, which are related to MongoDB and NoSQL database, really. Can we maybe get started? So, Brother Fahim, is that it? I think you're done. Any with the Scrum?
I believe so. There's a landing page issue, but I don't think anybody has those tickets are assigned. No, they are not. So we are done with this.
Yeah, I think that's okay. We have we need to assign that to someone yet. Landing page, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so Brother Ahmed, what we are thinking is that what is the right way for us to. So first thing is that we have the parents and dependents relationship. So should those be the separate documents, or should the dependents be part of the same document? And the reason we ask is because we think that the dependents also will need to work as independent also, because those dependents can sign up for some activities, including Sunday school or this MHMA-Tech. We have some sports activities, and some are paid activities. So we need to have a way to get to that information much more easily, rather than digging through the members. So, but we will need your expertise to decide how we store those.
So I've been thinking actually quite some time about this, and the design that I've come up with in my mind is actually neither.
Okay.
Dependent should be, at the end of the day, is a member that have an extra field that refers back to the independent.
Okay.
And so you can then when they grow up and become members, you can simply just modify that record by removing the independence, as the parent, I mean, or the guardian, and their information stays the same, add their emails and so on and so forth, right? And so then when you query, for example, say, query all the member of age 10 to 15, then you get these members, and then you get the ID of the parent.
Okay.
See-
The
see what I'm saying?
challenge, no, there is one challenge in this design also. The challenge we are thinking is that we don't want each dependent to have a separate user ID, right? So when the parent, the main member signs in, he should be able to see all his dependents rather those everyone has to sign up or have.
But that's the beauty of it. Since it's NoSQL, you don't need to assign them user ID,
Okay, okay.
right?
Okay, perfect.
All you need is basically to assign, if they have a dependent, you need to assign the ID of the parent. If they are a dependent, you need to assign the ID of the parent to them.
So
Then when you pull out a person, when a person with ID signed in, yeah, that's another thing. The person with the ID signed in, they need to see the relationship too. They need to see who's
yes.
under them.
Yeah, so then those rows are related to each other. So let's say there are 5 rows for a family. So one is the main member, and then there are spouse and maybe 3 children. So in that case, there are 5 rows in the collection, 5 documents in the collection, and those documents are related to each other.
Yeah, so I was thinking the member, any member basically would have user ID, right? Email,
Yep.
a bunch of other information.
Yeah.
Then at the end would have a list of independent. So that's a list
Oh, got it. Yeah, yeah.
that has one,
Okay.
right? Then also, so that's, and also a list of dependent.
What is the first one? Independent.
A list of, let's say a list of guardians.
Oh, okay, got it, got it.
So guardians, so everybody have a list of guardians and the list of dependents, right?
Okay, got it. Yeah, yeah.
And so if you are a member who is an independent or a parent, right? So a parent, a member who is a parent would look something like this. Their user ID will not be null. So their user ID, I'm trying to follow the same format so I don't confuse everything. The user ID cannot be null. They have to have a user ID, email and blah, 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 and everything else. Guardians will be empty.
Yeah.
But their dependent list will be member ID of the dependents.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. So is this structure easy to parse? Or what's the performance impact? I mean, if we don't worry, we don't have to worry about members and dependents because they're not going to be too many. But what can be too many would be the payments, because we have the same issue with the payments also. I'm sorry, payments. When I say
so, I think payments by all means should have their own database or data or basically
their own collection. Okay.
Collection.
Okay.
So payment should have their own collection, because, and then you just connect them using the user ID.
Okay. Okay. So the user ID has to be included in all the payments.
No, on all the payments.
Okay. Got it. Got it. Hey guys, it's not the discussion between us two. So are you guys following what the problem we are trying to solve, everyone?
So we have 3 things that sort of relate to each other. Just a quick problem statement for everybody. So we have 3 things that needs to relate to each other. We have the members, their dependents, and then payments. And later on, you can add even more like activities and so on.
Yeah.
So this list is just gonna grow as we grow our page and our stuff.
Yeah.
So my recommendation for the members and their dependents, that the dependents are members too. If you get to have their email address and information, then you can also send them related email activities if you can.
Yeah.
But also you can reach them through each other. So you can say, for this member, give me all the members that have dependent, that have the guardian user ID as such. Right. So But for the payments, I think payments should stay its own. That way you can guarantee independent access to it by
Right.
saying those who need to work with the payment, they don't really need to know the user information.
Yeah.
And only the UI can and basically you connect with payments with user ID. I can see the case where we can go and search, say, give me all the payments for that user ID.
Mhm.
And so that's an easy search and easy correlation between the two database. But I can see yet a use case for the other way around.
Yeah.
I can see a use case of saying, for this payment, now that I have this payment, give me all the user IDs who did such payment.
Mhm.
Like I can't see a user ID to say that. I can't see a use case that says, give me all the users who paid, give me the information of all the users who paid over $100.
I think the only thing I'm seeing is maybe if they want to find like because there's a field in payment that's gonna be like the payment type or like the reason for the payment, and at the moment we only have like a few of those, like a membership fee, a donation, or something else. So if we wanted to query that, find me all members who paid a membership fee
Yeah.
this last month, would that be like exceedingly difficult then? Or not possible at all?
Oh, anything is possible.
Yeah, that's possible, but we just need to, but it would be as like a slightly slower query
Yeah.
as
I
your
see.
member database grow.
And I think that's okay because that's a batch kind of information anyways. That's a reporting information. which we-
Exactly. Yeah, I don't think we're going to be querying that very often.
Yeah, and we can always make that query faster by indexing on certain IDs, right? On the user ID. So if we index on the user ID, we can always, that will make the queries just super fast. So even if we want to do it multiple times, it should be okay.
Okay, makes sense.
So one question I have, again, going back to the members and dependents. So in case of the dependents, what will be the user ID? Will they share the same user ID as the member, or they will have their own user ID?
So I think as a dependent, oops, let me just type in here. So to continue the picture, so a member who is a dependent, I think the user ID should be null, right? Unless you're planning to give them access, because I don't know if you're planning to give them
No, we
access.
are not planning to give them access. Yeah.
So the user ID should be always null, right? And then you have the rest of other information, the name, the age, blah, blah, blah. Those are filled.
I see.
But then they have something here that calls guardians, and this basically cannot be empty.
I see. This way we can very easily query to find all dependents as well, right? We just find
Exactly. So you
any
can say,
member.
give me all the field, give me all the members who have guardians, not empty.
Okay.
And the guardians will be the user IDs, right? In this case.
It can be the user IDs, or it can be the ID that gets assigned by the database itself, the unique ID that gets assigned by.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, I think that seems to be reasonable. And anyone else has any question or confusion on what we're talking about?
So when they turn 18, are we going to assign them user ID?
Basically, yeah, when they turn
become a
18, we
member.
need to update that record.
Yeah, no. So even at the 18, if they don't become the members, we'll have to either drop them or promote them to be members. Because
So a family wouldn't be under the same account. Like we'd have both parents, they'd each have their own accounts. Then who would the dependent children go under?
they can go under both.
Oh,
So
okay.
the guardians, here's the list. So it can be both people or multiple, right? You can add as many as you want here in that list.
Yeah. Okay, I think this looks good to me.
Because that way they're still easily queryable.
Yeah.
And yet you don't have to worry who's under who, right? Like you don't have to worry about what's the word I'm looking for? You don't have to worry about when you input the data, that every time you want to you need to input the dependent, that you need to get that record updated and maintain the old record and all this stuff, right? So just a new member now. Dependent is just a new member that have no user ID.
So can you save this image so that we use this as one of our design documents somewhere? It's a rough right now, but still useful. We don't want to forget about it.
Yeah, but I would urge you to give it a little more thinking, because I feel like there might be some corner cases that where this will break.
Mhm.
But at least from all the possible designs, I feel like this is the most robust.
Yeah, I think that's fine. We just want to keep it as a reference. Then,
No, I know. I'm just urging the rest of the folks in the
Um,
group here to just
could
give
I
it a
ask
little bit of thought.
Could I
and
ask a
just
quick
define it
question?
accordingly. Sure.
Yeah. So for this design right now, since I don't really have that much experience in NoSQL or MongoDB, but if one of the since right now I think the guardians is a list, can you write like a query saying that find me like a member who has a guardian with this ID inside its guardians list?
Yeah, you can basically say, find me all the members that has Guardian ID equal to this or that.
Okay, so we can say like a guardian whose guardians list has this specific ID, right?
Correct.
Okay, all right.
Remember when we did the book search and we said, find me all the books that has, find me the authors of the books that has pages above 50 and less than 80.
I see. Okay, so similar to that.
So, whether I have one question. So this is going to be in a it's a non-SQL database. So what are we using, like the Redis or something, to store this?
I think MongoDB, that's what
MongoDB
the
is one we use.
Okay, this relates to the whole. Okay.
Yeah, so that's a database. Right now, our stack has this database, and we want to learn about that. This is the popular thing these days. We want to get a peek of it, and we might change our database in future. But again, for now, we are focusing on this database.
The primary database that is going to be used to ingest new members, is this the primary database, or is that going to be regular SQL types?
No, this is the database.
This is the
Yeah, this is the database.
One case where this is not going to be efficient, if, for example, you want to say, give me everybody who have more than 3 kids. So that will be like multiple search, right? It won't be an easy search. That's where I can see design like this might fail. Not fail, but it will be slower.
I mean, if you have to search how many, like more than 3 dependents, I think that's easy enough for us. And we can assume that if someone has 4 dependents, it means 3 of them are children, right? I mean, we can make some assumptions also in our case. It's pretty much in our, that rule is pretty much true, right? I know, I mean, it's not
a dependent count as another field.
No, but what you want to do is basically, it's like a count, right? It's not going to be straightforward. That kind of query is not going to be straightforward, because you're going to be, give me for everybody who has a guardian, take these IDs and start counting them. And then you get the number of kids per each ID. That make sense?
So sorry, I didn't follow.
Yeah, I thought from the member, let's say the member which has the user ID, you could easily find how many dependents each member has by just.
No. I'm saying the other way around. If we want to see like who has 4 kids, not how many kids every user has or how many kids this user has, but like who has 3 kids or more.
Couldn't we just do like find member who the length of the guardians?
Exactly. The length
length of the dependents list is 4.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, actually, because now we have the dependent.
Yeah, dependents and guardians both.
That's a good point. I forgot about that. I made the design and forgot about it.
No, that's what I was like confused. Good one, Rafa. Yeah, that's what I was.
1 a.m. here.
No, I actually do really like this design. I think it solves most of our issues.
Okay, anyone else has any comments? Mahaj, Subhan, I didn't hear you guys. You guys following what we're talking about? Subhan or Wahaj?
Yeah, slowly I'm following.
Okay, okay, good. So
The good thing
it.
about this design too is later on when you add activities, you can basically add the activities for everyone separately. So you can add the activities for the kids separate than the activities for the parents.
Yeah.
And then you can say, for example, who were the kids that signed up for Quran classes or that was interested in Quran classes? Okay, those were the kids.
Yeah.
Who were their parents? Okay, those were their parents. What's their emails? Then you get the emails, then you can contact them, right?
Yeah.
So now dependent and independent each have their own set of records that they can grow into. So everyone grows independently than the other. Otherwise, the old design where you put dependent under the independent in one record, this record is just gonna keep growing as itself, and it's gonna be harder to add things to it and update.
Actually, real quick, before we move on, because I think that's a good idea, a good question for growth. If we do add activities, then we have to make sure that that member whose user ID is null, because that's how we're using to determine if it's a dependent. I think, like you said, we'd have like a database generated user or number to identify like a dependent as well, right? Because right now,
technically, you can actually give them user ID. That's a very good point. So technically, you can give them user ID. You can always ask who has guardians not null.
Okay, we could do. Okay, that makes sense.
So that way, even if you needed the kids to sign in, you still can make them sign in if you want.
Yeah.
Let's say I'm 14 years old and I'm interested in the activity. I don't want to ask my dad about signing in. I can sign in. My dad gave me consent to sign in. Then I can sign in. So I have my user ID. I can go sign in with it, and I can sign up for emails and everything. So even user ID doesn't have to be null. The identifier in this case for an independent would be the guardians field.
Yeah.
Is it full or not?
Yeah, I only say because I think we're using Google authentication right now, Uncle. So
yeah, they won't be able to sign in.
Yeah, they won't be able to.
They have a Google ID, yes. But we will. Yeah, I think that's still we can think a little bit more about it. And if the kids do have the user the email ID, which everyone has it these days. I think even 10 years have. Because they're using it in the school, in the Canvas, and other places also. So yeah, we will probably can have a user ID for them also. But I think the deciding factor for us to be who's guardian versus who's dependent is the guardian's field right now.
Yeah, okay, makes sense.
Okay, I think we have some more topics to cover today, and I want to finish off a little bit on the rest. Do you guys follow what we talked about last week? Let me go and share my screen.
So I'm gonna take off. It's about 1 a.m. here.
Oh, Brother Ahmed, where are you?
I'm in the East Coast.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much, Brother Ahmed. I was actually hoping that if you can continue, but that's fine. I think because this topic, maybe you can. I want some people to be here to keep me honest with what I'm talking about. Sometimes there are topics which I am not the expert of, but I am talking about those because we don't have many speakers discussing those. But that's fine, Brother Ahmed. I think. Thank you so much for joining.
Jazakallah khair, everybody. We'll see you inshallah next week.
Okay, so how we are doing with the REST? Do you guys have a good idea of how to use REST and everything, or how to build REST APIs? I know Subhan has created one and he has tested and stuff, which is fine. But I don't want the others also to stay that they don't need to learn this. This is for everyone. I think this is a very important topic because REST is the most popular way to access the server, and this is the most popular way of communicating with the server. So anyone has any questions about what we discussed last week?
About Postman. So once Wahaj finishes his UI design and like once his payment thing it works fully, will I still have to use Postman to test?
I think so.
API?
You will continue to test yours, because sometimes the issues will arise that Wahaj will say, I don't know, I don't think he will say that, but I'm just giving you an example. Wahaj will say that, no, my front end is working fine. It's something to issue with you. And you will say, no, it's your issue because something in the UI is causing the problem. But in order for this to solve this problem, is best way is that you show in the Postman to Wahaj that, okay, look, this is how I'm making the REST request and this is the response I'm getting. This is working as expected. And then you need to figure out why this is not working as expected. So in order to resolve those kind of issues, you are supposed to test your REST APIs on the Postman to make sure they are working, and then Wahaj will use your REST APIs to manipulate the data in his UI. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. So did you guys watch the session after last? Because I did suggest this, that it's important that you guys watch this session again, because this is something more complicated than the other topics which you have covered. So have you guys watched it or no? Is this a yes or no? I don't know.
The last.
I haven't.
The last
I will go
meeting?
back to watching it again.
Okay.
Are you talking about the last meeting?
Yes.
I didn't get a chance, but I'll try to this week.
Okay. Yeah, so I think it was a good idea if you guys watch the session last week, which we covered. It was we covered the REST APIs, how we can create those REST APIs, what are the different methods. So let's just quickly pass through. Basically, whenever we have to get some data from the web server, we make get, post, or other kind of request. In this example is showing the get request, that it is accessing from the server, and what is the different kind of gets which are happening, the style sheet, the images, the HTML or the video or the ads data, they all are integrated and showed it in this page. And I gave you guys the yahoo.com example, that you will find all this kind of videos, ads, images, HTML content, that all shows up in the page finally. And this is where these different kind of, so this is like five REST requests were made, and then all those requests combined to generate one document. So then we had, I'm sorry. Then we had another example we showed. I think that's okay, that you guys can. Then HTTP versus HTTPS. So HTTP, you might have noticed that most of the websites which you go, and then you will see that there is this lock boxes showing up. If this lock box is showing up, that means it is secure. And this is using HTTPS. If you look at this URL, it will say HTTPS. So what this means is that the data which is being communicated between the server and the client is a secure data using some SSL, which is secure protocols, right? So what that means is that when the data transmission is happening between the server and the client, it is encrypted in some form, so that the hackers cannot go and access that information. Because a lot of these requests, when you are sending, those requests have data like your personal information, including your date of birth, social security number, or other information which cannot go to the people where it shouldn't. So for that, this is if you look at most of the websites now, they are HTTPS, and which are the sites which are not HTTPS, you will find instead of this lock, they will say is not secure. So and this has now become like a standard now, that you have to use HTTPS. Very few sites are left as using HTTP protocol. And then we talk about some REST methods like post method, get method, put, patch, and delete. And get is to get the data, post is to save the data or create the data. Put and patch are similar in some way that they are used to modify the data on the server. If you are modifying 1 or 2 fields, it uses the patch. If you're modifying the whole thing, you use put. And if you, then there's a delete, right? And then we talk about the Express. So Express is pretty much a standard on the on Node.js as a library used for creating the REST APIs. And then I gave some example of there are a couple of ways to do it, but the way we are using in our example is this: that we create a router, and from the router we are creating router.get and router.post and the other. And I showed the member.js with you guys, and I covered that. And then the other important difference is that we are using a Mongoose library. Mongoose library is basically provides kind of a like a abstraction that it makes your functions very, very easy. So they basically abstract and hide the complexity for you guys. So otherwise, those writing the queries, which Brother Ahmed covered a couple of weeks ago, you guys don't have to write those queries in the code, because they are abstracted very well in this Mongoose library, and they are providing you functions like a find and update and all those functions, which you will see in the member.js. And I think I linked our example here in this document for you guys, where you can see that. So these are the functions I'm talking about, like find by ID and find. So you don't have to write a query. Instead, you can use these functions, which basically behind the scene are calling those queries to access the data for you guys. Find by ID and then the dot create, find one and update. So all these are Mongoose functions, which making your life easier, and you don't have to worry about the complexity of the queries. So I'm trying to give you guys a revision, because I think that you guys, most of you probably guys were not, did not go and watch the session, the recording. So there are some more example I give here. So a lot of these queries, like I earlier said, can be very, very difficult to write. So Mongoose libraries give us a lot of options. Like in this case, you want to find all user, then skip 100 records and limit it to 10 records, sort the results by the first name, select the first name, and execute that query. So if you notice, it has, you can just do a user model.find, like we have that members.find, and then you can say .skip will skip the first 100 records, and then will get the first 10 records after the first 100 records. And then it can sort by name and select.
Is Mongo a JavaScript library?
Yes, it is.
So this is like, are there any other ways to just create APIs without Mongo, or is Mongo the only one?
There is certainly a way to, and if we will cover maybe later, but I think for now, I don't want to get it more complicated, because our goal is for now just to understand how to build the REST APIs. If we start writing these queries directly in our functions of get and post, you guys will be lost in the details of that. So I don't want you guys to have too much complexity, and I'm trying to keep it simpler for you guys. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So have you guys all downloaded the Postman? I'm trying to go a little bit fast today, because we need to cover some topics. So have you guys downloaded the Postman, everyone? I am hoping that the answer is yes. If that's okay, tell me if you guys have not. If anyone has not done it yet.
I think we have all installed it. I think everyone in the chat said yes.
Oh, okay. I'm not looking at the chat then. Sorry. Okay, good. Okay, so if you look at the Postman, I think I might have it open somewhere. Yeah. So if you look at the Postman, and in order for you us to use the Postman, this is where you put your URL. Like in this case, you put our URL. I'm using our hosted website on the Heroku. You guys can use whatever localhost colon 3000/members, right? So you can do use that. That's fine. And then here you will use whatever method you are testing, like a get, post, put, patch, delete. These are the ones which we use most commonly. These are some special methods which we will probably not deal with for now. So you select your method here, you put your URL, and then you have to put something in the authorization. Normally the authorization is given as a So we are using here OAuth 2.0 authorization, but in most of the cases, there is a basic auth. Basic auth is you give the username and the password. But since we are not using a basic authorization, we are using OAuth, and I'm going to cover this today. Hopefully, if the time permits, I'm trying to go fast as I can. So instead, we are using the OAuth 2. So for OAuth 2 to work properly, you guys will have to populate these fields correctly. So you will select an OAuth 2.0 from here, and then you guys have to put this callback URL, auth URL, a client ID, client secret, and scope. So once you do that, then you can get a access token. Again, all these things are looking very complicated here, but they will become easier. But for now, just think that you have to put this information, and that is used as the security. Because if I don't do that, for example, if I say I'm using no authorization and do a send, I will get a 401 or something. Well, it isn't, because it's probably already has all my headers maybe selected. So let's see, where is it? Look at it. And if I say send, it says unauthorized. So basically, if I don't provide the authorization, I will not be able to access the data. So now if I do OAuth 2 and then do a send, I still getting, because I still need those headers which were here. Let's see, all these headers, right? So I can do a send, and then it returns all my members data here. And I had get Subhan started on this, and I want you guys all to be able to test your REST APIs, the members API on your own. And if you are not able to do it, let me know. You guys can ping me and I can help you guys. And I already have put all this information for the Postman here. These are all the headers in this document. Like a callback URL is this. And this, if you guys want to look at it, you guys always can do an edit and it will show you, or you can click it, open in a new tab. It will give you what URL is it, right? And then the scope is email. This is our client ID, and this is our client secret, and this is our access token and auth URL. So put these in those variables which are here. So all this under the authorization. When we do an OAuth 2, you guys will have to put this information here. And once you do that, you should be able to access the data. Then, because then you will get a new access, and then put this information and say get a new access token. And once you get the new access token, you will use that for your information. So we will talk about a little bit about security, and we're getting close to the end of our class, but I just want us to get started on that. Any questions on how to use the Postman? I know there should be questions, but go ahead.
Just a quick question. So in the request you're sending right now, you're saying get. and then you're passing it the website, and then members. So is members is a page, correct, on
It's the
our
REST
website?
API. Members is the REST API. If you look at our
Yes.
source code,
Mm-hmm.
let me bring it here. Sorry. And if you look at we have this members.js, and that's where we have defined a router for get and router for, and same way Subhan has created payments.js. And that's will go as the URL will be, instead of members, that will be payments.
Okay, so when you say members, you're asking, give me all the members in our database right now.
Yes, yes.
Okay, I see. Thank you.
Okay. I want to get started on security. Does anyone have a problem or want to have anything else before we move on to that? Okay, looks like not. So I've already put a link for the security here, and I want to go briefly about this. And like I said earlier, I am not a security expert, and and I will not try to say too much about it. I will try to read what I collected the information, so that I don't say something which is not accurate, right? So, but yeah, I know a bit because I have been using it for a long time. So, so basically, I still have a much better understanding as compared to maybe most of you guys. So, why? Okay, what is the purpose of the security? Anyone take a shot? Why we do a security? And what is the security just with the applications on the software, or it's there in other world also? And anyone?
I think security is just to not allow people who are not allowed to do something to do what they want to do. So I mean, software side, if somebody who wants to access your information but isn't allowed to, security would stop them. In real life, it works the same way.
Yeah. So real life, like for example, you go to Walmart and you use your credit card, and the person says, "Oh, can I see your ID?" That's a security. They're authenticating you that you are really who you are, right? So to ensure that that the credit cards you are using, does it match with your ID? And then they will look at your face and they'll say, "Oh yeah, the picture also matches." So that is like a multi-factor kind of authentication, that you have your credit card, then you have your ID, and then on ID has a picture, and from the picture they will look at you, and then okay, yeah, that's so this is called authentication. And the first one which we're talking about is the basic authentication. What is basic authentication? Is like you enter your user ID and password, and that was the first method of authentication which was introduced, that you give your user ID and then you give your password. And then that user ID and password is encrypted to generate a token for you guys, like I'm saying here, base 64 encoded string. And this is in this form it is sent to the server, so that the user ID and password cannot be also stolen. So that's why it is base 64 encoded as well. Then there is so this is our basic authentication, where we are maintaining the user information and the password and all those details ourselves. Then the second one is the OAuth. OAuth is very popular these days, and OAuth is exactly what we are using. Is basically in our server, we are not the ones who are maintaining the user authentication. User is authenticated somewhere else. Like when you are entering our website, you are giving your user Google ID and password. So you have to log in there, and we are using like a third party as our authentication. So that is called, that is used as an OAuth. So if I'll read it, so that like I said earlier, OAuth is built around the singular core concept of a delegated authorization. So I mean, we are delegating this to a third party. Unlike a traditional username password systems or even API keys, OAuth doesn't have a single set of credentials. Instead, it splits the concept of credentials into client credentials and into end user tokens. So client credentials are basically whatever your Google ID and password are. It is authenticated on the Google server, and then it will generate a token which will be used, and that is the token which I was talking about when I was saying this token. So I just wanted to make sure I can relate OAuth here. So you give your information about your client ID, and this is our Google client ID and Google client secret. And based on that, this will generate a new access token. And that access token will be used from there on until you logged in. So every time you log in our website using your Google ID, there is a client token which is generated and given it to you. And you use that token to make sure that you are identified as you on the server. Does that make sense, or I'm confusing you guys a little bit on that? And any questions on, maybe we finished reading this. There are 3 parties are involved: the client, the person or the user who is trying to log in. So I am a member and I'm trying to sign in into our website. So that is the client. And then there is a consumer, the application that clients want to log in. So this is our website, which is MHMA.whatever.com, right? So that's the client, that's the consumer. And then the third party, which is the service provider, the external application that authenticates the user's identity. Well, this should not be there since it's a copy paste. So yeah, I'll get rid of this. So the external application that authenticates the user's identity. And there's some chart here which you request the authorization. So this is the client who requests the authorization, and this is the URL, and the authorizes the client, the service provider, and redirects the consumer's URL with the request token. So once you sign in there on the Google, it will generate the access token like I earlier said. And it will, once this access token is generated, it goes to the consumer, requests the access token from the service provider using the request token. And then the service provider accesses the token for the request token and redirects the application to the page with access token. So basically, the third party, in our case, which is a Google, which will generate the access token for us, and then that token will be used to give you the access on the application. So like if you are accessing as an admin, you will have different access. If you're accessing as a member, you will have a different access. Don't worry too much about this. I think there are some details which I don't want to go over about what is happening, especially in these two. I think the thing which I want you guys to remember is, first thing is that you are logging into the Google system, because that's a third party system. And once you logged in, it generates the request token, and that token goes to both server and the client for them to ensure that this is the same person. So this is what the authorization is. The authentication is OAuth. Does that make sense so far? Okay. Hopefully that's yes. So you guys also might have heard two-factor authentication or even multi-factor authentication. Two-factor authentication is when you put your user ID and password, or that is a basic authentication. So two-factor authentication can be done with the OAuth as well as with the basic authentication. So when you enter your user ID and password, for additional second factor, which will be then it can either send you an email, a code to your email, or a code can be sent as a text to you to make sure that you are the right person. So that is another level of testing. And wherever you see this 2FA, that means two-factor authentication. And this is very popular these days as well. I think you guys probably all familiar with that, because It happens everywhere, almost anywhere with a bank, or they all use two-factor. And I think we should always enable the two-factor authentication, because these days it's become very easy for you to lose your user ID and password. Some people can easily guess it or access it, or there are ways to access this data. So it's very popular, and so like I said, like I mentioned, that they will ask you some questions, something you know, something you have, or something you are. So that is like a second factor authentication. You could be third factor is sometime you can see the proximity, that where the user is signed in from. So for example, if we are in MHMA, if someone is trying to sign in from, let's say, from India, that's probably not right. It is possible because someone can maybe visiting there, but that is one way for us to see if that we want to allow that or not. Some systems have these kind of restrictions that they want to allow the people only logging in from a certain place. So there can be multiple factor authentications, but 2FA is one of the more popular. Is this okay so far, or is it too dry? Are you guys with me so far?
So I see that below you're going to also talk about certificates. Certificates are an area that I very often work with, and I can cover that along with Sagar next week if you want.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that would be great if you can do that. Certainly, I think we will go. I think we'll probably try to repeat the security a little bit more. I think I went a little bit too fast today. But I was just wanted to make sure that these guys become a little bit familiar with the security, and then we can cover. So you are welcome to edit this document and add that in here itself. So whatever you want to add about the certificates, please go ahead and add under here.
Yeah, under encryption, because certificate and encryption go hand in hand.
Perfect. Should we stop here, or do you guys want me to finish this off? I would want to say here thumbs up or thumbs down. Okay, they're mostly thumbs up so far. Okay, so let's get into the single sign-on. So single sign-on, and these concepts, really we just need to know about them. We don't really are going to, except from the OAuth stuff and the basic auth, there are not many things which you probably will need to use much, but it's good to know about them because these are used in the industry quite a bit. So single sign-on is the problem created. We're trying to solve a problem where you have, like, let's say we are working in Oracle, and in Oracle we have like many applications, and those all applications can have their own authentication because they're not using some third party. They're using their, let's say, their own basic authentication, or even some of them are using OAuth, but maybe some different OAuth they are using. So in order for a user to be able to that he doesn't have to log in every time, put a user ID password, there is a single sign-on concept which comes in. And just think that what this does is that you just log in once with your user ID and password, and you get access to all the applications. So basically you get, what this means is that you get authenticated with in all those applications. How this is done, we don't need to get into that, but I just wanted to cover that because this is important for you to understand that there is a single sign-on which allows you to basically sign in or authenticated on multiple apps within that organization. There are some advantages and disadvantages. I'm not going to get into that. So I'm going to get to the authorization. This is also important. So authentication and authorization, these are two things which are very much related. and very much confused. Most of the people are on this, that what is authentication and what is authorization. So authentication is like Rafa earlier mentioned, that it is more like when you are when you're signing in, we just have to verify that it is basically you, right? So that's basically we are authenticating that you are someone who you are saying you are, right? So that's like authentication. So once you enter your user ID password or you sign in with the Google authentication, you get authenticated, you got some access, but it doesn't mean that you authenticated, but that you will have access to everything. So that's where the authorization comes in, that you now signed in, but you may have some roles. So basically you can have an admin role, or you can have a member role, or maybe some other roles, which we maybe a reporting role or some other roles there are multiple roles in the organizations. So you can sign in with some role. And as a role, whatever role you have, based on that role, you will get access to the resources. So that's why I put these words here, so that you remember what is involved in the authorization. And so basically you will have the resources. Resources is like what pages you have, like the login page, the landing page, the member page, the payments page, the activity page. So what kind of access you have on those. So those are all resources. So roles will determine what pages you have access to. And that is defined using permissions and privileges. Again, I would not want to confuse you guys on this, but I just want for you guys to know at the high level that authorization means that what resources you have access on. So authentication means that can you get into the system? Because if without authentication, you will get a 401 error and means no access. But once you have access, then it will be determined that what role you have in the organization, and what are the resources available, and what are the resources available which you have the access. And the access also could be that you may be able to view it and not able to edit it, or you may be able to view it and edit it, but may not be deleted. So there are also further permissions. That's where the permissions and privileges come in, that what kind of a permission you have on the specific resource. So all these four things basically determine what pages you are authorized to do what. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So I think I'm going to stop right here, because I think I'm not going to get into encryption. We will continue this next week, and brother Fahim also will add the security certificates here. How to use those certificates, what different kinds of certificate. It is good to know that information also, because we have to deal with it a lot of times in our SSH world. So let's talk about encryption next week. Any questions you guys have here? And again, I would recommend you guys, I think I went a little bit fast today as compared to previous weeks, but if you guys watch the session again, I think that would be helpful. So ask me questions during the week, or when we meet on the midweek for our update. Okay, anyone has any questions?
Naimunko, I don't have a question about the information that you just covered, but I have another question regarding the payments. So I wanted to ask, I was looking into Stripe. It doesn't seem too difficult to implement, but I think it does require like some keys, some API keys that I need to generate from the account. And when I try to make an account with my personal information, kind of got stopped because it was asking for like some business information. So I wasn't exactly sure how I could make an account like as an individual. So I wanted to ask you, do you know if MHMA has Stripe
MHMA
account?
has Stripe. MHMA has Stripe, and
Okay.
I'll talk to them and see if there is a way for us to use that. And there may be a similar sandbox IDs available there, also the credit card numbers or stuff which can work. So
Okay.
we can talk to them and see. Yeah. So yeah, I'll check with Saqib or Umar on that, and then let you know.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Anyone else has anything?
I had one question though.
Okay.
So I joined very recently here. I didn't get to introduce myself and also just get to know everybody who's working on this. So if we can take a minute, I can talk about who I am. I know everybody wants to log off, but it would be really nice if I can get to know at least some kind of background to everybody. As in what grade you are in, or what are you studying right
I
now?
think we have some introduction given in our video one. So
Naimako, I think the first couple of videos weren't recorded, so
no, video one has, oh, I
Has-
see.
You understand? Okay.
I think the video one has most of you guys covered. But we can maybe, so I don't want to drag these guys.
Yeah. We can do this on Wednesday. That's fine.
Yeah, so we can do that. Yeah.
yeah, sounds good. Okay.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much.
Jazakallah.
Jazakallah.